There he is, man. How you doing?
How you doing?
Good, man. We got you
You look
sideways
upside.
on there.
You look
You
sideways on me.
you look sideways to me, man.
Do you have your phone? Do you have your phone sideways?
No, I got it up and down. You
Yeah,
sideways?
turn it sideways, dude. That's like rookie. That's rookie TV stuff, dude. Seriously?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Hey CJ, I look at it this. You don't watch TV like this on your wall, do you? You watch it like this,
You're right. Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
dude. I like the beard you got going on.
The quarantine beard.
I like it, dude. Love it.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing probably what you're doing. I'm just running around with the kids and trying to find things to do and playing
Like
some
you
cards earlier today and
walking
hoops
walk
and trying to get a
walking
workout in, all that stuff.
walking the dog, right? We were talking earlier. All
I
the
walk the
dogs are
dog too.
the
Yeah.
dogs are ready for everybody to go back to work.
Oh,
So,
I, I say to my dog, "Hey, you want to go for another walk?" And he kind of looks at me like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Uncle, uncle with the walks." You know what I mean? It's like the third walk we've had today.
it's good stuff, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. I think it's gonna be fun. We'll talk some baseball, kind of get in your world a little bit. I'll give it's funny, man. You've been around our company for a long time. We're used to having you around the office and everybody knows you. But I'll give kind of the. I was thinking about, man. I'll give you the real bio for everybody else that's joining us because it's pretty awesome. 12 years in the big leagues, 3-time All-Star, 302 career hitter. Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, University of Richmond Hall of Fame, and now a longtime MLB analyst. So we're pumped to have you with us tonight. You've been an awesome partner and advisor and friend of ours for a long time. So we're all kind of stuck at home and missing baseball. So we thought this was the next best thing that we could do, man. So appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, great, CJ. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Cool,
Great,
man.
great seeing you, man. Usually we see each other a little bit more, but with
Yeah.
quarantine going on,
Hey,
I'm sure we will
gotta
hopefully soon.
we got to do what we got to do here. So I'll kick us off here a little bit, man. And obviously any topics you want to touch on, feel free to run with them. We'll try to look out our best as we can, see if we get some questions here that we can answer. So, maybe we'll start where we all are right now, right? We're spending a lot of time at home. Normally for the last few weeks, you'd have been kind of touring spring training with the network and doing game analysis. So, what kind of stuff are you doing to keep busy? What are you doing with the family? I know you got 4 kids, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that's keeping you busy too. But what are you doing to pass the time right now? What's going on at the Casey house?
Well, just we've been reading a lot of books. I try to get the kids reading some books. Yeah, we do a little hitting in the garage. My sons Andrew and Jake still are hitting a little bit, so we'll go downstairs and hit a little bit. Been taking a lot of walks, cooking a lot of meals. I feel like it's the Casey cafeteria. You know what I mean? I'm like, every day the kids come down. Even my daughter joined me. He's like, "Dad, can you make some French toast?" And I'm like, "I really don't want to, but I will because I got nothing else going
Got
on." So
time?
yeah, I got nothing but time, so I
What's
got nothing to say. So I'm the ultimate cook right now, bro. I
what's
cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I do everything I can right now. So it's pretty much probably what everyone else in the country is doing in the world. Just staying home, eating, and trying to work out. My sons and I are doing like the push-up challenge. How many push-ups you can get in a day? So I'm losing to that one, dude. They're 18 and 17. They're just ripping them. I'm like, ah.
what's the Sean Casey special in the kitchen, man? What's your go-to?
Oh, dude, you kidding me? I got a lot of go-tos going on. I just did a green curry the other night. I cut up the vegetables, got the coconut milk going, a little green curry in there, and a little chicken. Cooked the chicken up, got it all together in the rice. But I tell you what, man, there's a lot of love in that dish because that took me like close to an hour. Siege, at the end of it, I was like, "All right, kids, you're cleaning up because it's a disaster in there. You're cleaning up." But that's a big one. We got some steaks going every once in a while. We got the side veggies and the salads,
Nice.
and we're eating pretty good. So it's been good, man. We've enjoyed
That's awesome.
chicken fettuccine alfredo the other night was good. So we're going on.
Sounds
What
good,
about
man.
you, bro? Are you cooking at all, or what's going on?
Man, we're cooking a little bit, man. I've been using the grill a lot. We're getting out, trying to on any of these decent days in Pittsburgh. So we
Nice,
definitely, I mean, like everybody, you start cooking more at home. We're getting the kids more involved in that. So it's been good, man. It's been good.
nice, man, nice.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the positives of being at home a bunch. So So, let me, I guess this is this kind of crazy time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're 6 weeks into being at home, and, especially when you think about like the baseball season, right? It either got stopped for a lot of people if your season has started, or in the case of, big leaguers who never even got the season going. I mean, is there anything in your career or anything like as it relates to baseball that even begins to compare again, a time like this? And I know that there's nothing like it from like shutting everything down, but when you think about this, like, is it comparable at all to like when you're on the DL, when you're rehabbing, when you're trying to kind of work back from something you can't play, or is it anything you can relate it to?
Yeah, you know what? The one thing I can relate it to that comes right to mind is when 9/11 happened. I know for us, we were in Chicago. I got a call that morning from my wife saying that something was going on. I remember we were staying right next to the John Hancock building at the west end of Michigan Avenue. I remember they evacuated us because they thought there might be another plane in the air. And I just remember the eerie feeling of that in the world, in the country. And then they shut down baseball for a few weeks. And I remember taking a bus. They shut down all the flights. We were in Chicago. I think the next day or maybe a day after, we took a bus back to Cincinnati. And I just remember like time was kind of stopped for a little bit. And that feeling now, it kind of feels like that. Like time is just stopped. Like the world has stopped for a little bit, and for a moment of pause to make sure that we're doing the right things, to make sure that we're not going too fast and that we're slowing down. And that's kind of that's one time I can relate to it. I mean, I've had times when I've been on the DL and stuff like that, but I never had that weird feeling. The only time I ever had the weird feeling that I kind of have now, and I think maybe the world has, was back in 2001.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. It is, and it again, even if you are, you're on the DL, you're rehabbing, you're still working, you still got something you're working towards, and you're right. You don't have that like global feel of like just uneasiness. And I'm sure you've been talking to guys, and I'm sure what's your sense in talking to guys who are just kind of, ready to get back out there? I mean, I'm sure you've been talking to guys on different clubs and rosters. You do a lot of that work kind of throughout
Yeah.
the year for some teams too. Like, you get this sense that everybody's pretty itchy and wants to get back out there.
Yeah, I think guys are itching to get back out, but I do think there's some caution there too. I do think that, I think the one good thing about this whole thing, just being a part of Major League Baseball and knowing that the leadership they have, of Rob Manfred and Tony Petitti at the top with the commissioners, and Tony Clark and the lawyers over there with the Players Association, those guys have so many people that they can ask, the experts that can help them, give advice on, hey, what should we do? What's this looking like? And so I really do believe that when Major League Baseball hopefully gets back going at some point, they have all the information that they need to make the best decision possible, to most importantly, keep everybody safe. I mean, I know for me, if I was a veteran player with a couple kids and, they asked me to leave my family for a few months in the middle of this craziness, I'd have a moment of pause. So I think they're going to try and make sure if they do come back, that everyone's safety and the family safety and the fans and all that stuff is first and foremost. And I think they'll figure out a way to make the right decision.
Yeah, that's well said, man. And I have to believe that they're all over it at this point, and everything that you've seen, that's been out there publicly, feels like they're trying really hard to find that right balance. I think everybody wants to see baseball at this point, no more than probably you and me and a whole bunch of other people that are watching this, but you got to do it on the right terms. It's got to be right for the players, and it's got to be kind of safe for everybody. So, I'm gonna bounce this around a little bit, right? And again, feel free to take it anywhere you want. For those that are just joining, I'm CJ Handert. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Diamond Kinetics with our good friend Sean Casey. Just kind of talking baseball, talking staying at home and everything in between. One of the awesome things I feel like about you and your role in baseball, and even just kind of where you are in life, right? Is that like, you're a longtime former big leaguer. You get this view of being able to still be around the game in a really close way with your role on the MLB network. You're a dad of kids who are playing the game right now. And then I'm sure one of the most important areas for you is some of the work that you do on the charitable side of things. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time there, man, because I think it's really impressive. And I think it's a great opportunity to talk a little bit. So tell us a little bit about Casey's Clubhouse, all the great work that you do with the Miracle League of South Hills. I mean, I think for those of us in Pittsburgh, like we get to see that a little bit, and those of us that know you, know the background. But tell us a little bit more about it, about the work that you're doing there.
Well, it's such a cool place, Siege. You guys have helped us out a lot over the years, and if anyone doesn't know what the Miracle League is, it's a wonderful organization across the country. And it allows kids of all abilities, disabilities to be able to play baseball. And for us, we have over 350 kids at the Miracle League of the South Hills. We've been going on, I believe this was our 8th or 9th season. We're going to be coming up. We had to obviously cancel our spring season, which was kind of a bummer. But, what the greatest thing about the Miracle Leagues is this. You put that rubberized surface. We raised a lot of money to do that. We have a all-inclusive playground that we have. But the greatest thing is that rubberized surface. So if kids are in a wheelchair or they need some assistance, we have that so that the wheels can roll on that surface and the kids can do everything else that other kids can do. For us, we have just a bunch of different kids, and I think the great thing about the Miracle League too is every kid needs a buddy, so every kid needs a volunteer. So it allows a lot of kids in the area, high school kids in the area, and also adults to volunteer, whether you're a buddy with a kid or you're a coach or you sell merchandise or whatever. But for us, man, it's just been an amazing thing, a real blessing for our community here in the South Hills. And, I think we had, 51 area codes that were over joining our field. So I think it's just been a wonderful thing, man. And like I said, we appreciate you helping us out. And, if you go to miracleleaguesouthhills.org, you can check us out and see more of the things that we do.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And we're happy to be a little part of it. It's awesome to see, the Pirates and Pirates charities involved in that, from a local perspective. And so, it's awesome. I mean, whether it's through the Miracle League or whether it's through, experience with your own kids, like, there's something just awesome about like being around, kids playing sports. And obviously, I'm biased. You're probably a little biased to baseball, right? Like, so, what are some, do you have a moment or two? You have anything that kind of sticks with you along the way here when it comes to, kids around the game or things you've done around youth baseball that stick with you?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I just saw, it's funny because, my sons and I were talking the other day about some of the cool times you have growing up, especially, I always feel like those 10, 11, 12 years are some of the greatest, back end of Little League, your last couple of years before you go to the big field. I just remember going back to the Ripken, the Ripken facility down in Aberdeen. Those facilities are top notch. And, I remember taking the kids down there when they were 11, 12. And I just saw that they canceled it for the summer, which is kind of a shame. But going up to Cooperstown was just such a cool trip. We were able to go over to Cooperstown Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, which is really cool. But just the kids living in the barracks and playing all those games, when I look back at the kids' Little League, I remember sleeping in the barracks too. It's like, you're kind of grinding. You feel like you're back in the minor leagues a little bit, or, at Richmond, on the vans you're traveling in. And I remember having like the fan on my face, I'm hot. I got no covers on. I got kids coming to ask me, Coach Casey, can I go to the bathroom? I'm like, yeah, go to the bathroom. Why are you waking me up? You know what I mean? So like, I think back to some of those, I think it's the greatest game they have. So those are two things that kind of come to mind when I think about youth baseball.
I just think it's awesome. It's cool to like, you experience those same things. I mean, you played in the big leagues for 12 years, but you do the same stuff that, that we do when we're, the dad coaches running around. I saw, this was a couple of years ago at the Marucci World Series, saw Adam Dunn, who's I know a good buddy of yours and he's coaching one of the teams there. Right. And you just look around and you're like, it's pretty wild, and just kind of going through the same paces that the rest of us are, trying to get kids from one place to another and, get them.
If I really think about my whole career, especially Little League, is my dad, you know what I mean? Because, he's the guy driving you places. He's the guy going to tournaments with you. Your mom and dad are kind of doing all that stuff. But, and that's from 12-year-old Travel All-Stars, one of my favorite teams ever, like 1986, like, winning trophies and having sleepovers and cooking steakums till 4 a.m. and maybe pool hopping sometimes. All that stuff was all such a good time. So, I love the fact that I can be a dad with my kids and have them have the same experiences.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, and I'm sure it's same with other sports too, but man, baseball just sticks with you, and some of my closest friends are all all the guys that I, grew up playing Little League with. And so that's pretty neat, man. It's fun. So, um, if we kind of shift us back to the world that we're in now, right? So we've had a rough spring. We're all kind of, inside. Baseball's had a rough spring. And as the summer is approaching, right? Like it seems like it's going to be a mixture kind of thing this summer. Hopefully it'll be some baseball, but you mentioned Cooperstown. I saw the Cape Cod League is canceled for the summer. So it's not going to be the same kind of thing, right? So, how do you think? I mean, what are some of the things that you think about? You have any kind of thoughts and ideas on, how are you thinking about keeping baseball kind of front and center? The things that you can continue to do at home, and certainly, obviously, in our world, we're on the technology side of things. So, do you see places where technology can be helpful there? Like, how are you thinking about the summer? How are you thinking about it with your kids and with just like thinking about baseball in general?
Well, you know what? I think we've all as human beings, had a chance to pause here, right? Maybe look at things and look at what's important in your life. And a lot of us are really having to spend that time with family and really even get to know each other, to a greater level. But for me, I look at my kids, I said, hey, this is, we could look at it one or two ways. We can kind of be nervous about this whole thing and sit in the corner, or we can know that it's happening, accept it. And then, you can control what you can control. Use the time to maybe, if we're talking baseball and stuff, hey, maybe get in the garage and get your swings and get in front of the mirror and get some reps in, whether you're walking away from your hands or you're working on your, contact position, or you're working on really getting your head to stay in that good position, whatever it is, there's so many things you can do. And even the stuff with Diamond Kinetics, working, trying to find out, hey, all you need is you and the app and all that stuff, and how to set up your swing, what's your bat path look like, your launch angle, all that different stuff. This is really a time to, in this profession, in a skillful profession like baseball, repetition is the mother of skill, right? At the end of the day. So, try to get your work in, find a routine. You have so much time in your hands. I know my kids do have so much time in their hands. There's only so much Fortnite you can play and get in front of those phones. You got to get some physical activity going, get a sweat going or something. So, there's a lot of different things kids can do at home. And these are the times to really get creative. And maybe you'll find a drill or two that you start to really like because you have the time. And, we have nothing but time, which can be a good thing.
So one thing, that you and I, we've talked a ton about, at lunch, and we've talked about around our office, and I think our whole DK team is fascinated by, and maybe this has some crossover to some of the stuff that you can even think about and focus on at home, right? So you've been a huge thing for you is the mental approach, right? Like how you prepare yourself, and you had particular routines that you followed, like things that really worked for you that made you really successful. And I know that's something that you actually work on, with minor leaguers. You do a lot of work in that area. Maybe tell us a little bit about some of kind of the big kind of key parts of that from your perspective. And then are there any aspects of that, as we do have that extra time on our hands, like as your boys are at home kind of not playing, like, are there elements there that you can be focusing on, that you can be thinking about, that you can be working on, because sometimes that stuff, like, I think you've always said, like, you got to think about that stuff. You got to work on it. You got to have a plan. It doesn't just sort of like magically happen. So tell us a little bit about how you think about like the whole kind of mental approach and preparedness side of things, and then maybe any elements you could do at home.
Well, I like the phrase, you're not entitled to any thoughts you haven't worked on. We all think, oh, I just want to feel happiness, joy. I think there's something, our brains are very complex things. In baseball, I just want to do better. I think the biggest thing is, right, you're not entitled to any thoughts you haven't worked on. And I think, leaders are readers at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of great books out there that kids, whether it's the mental game of baseball, son's looking at a book right now called The Warrior Within. There's a book out there called Relentless. There's a ton of unbelievable books. And I always say this. So, you can work on technique, you can do all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you get in that batter's box and that guy's on the mound, it's a one-on-one wrestling match, right? Baseball is the ultimate individual team sport. at the end of the day, I got to be ready to go, especially mentally. Man, I can work on all I want to work on physically, but mentally, I have to be able to get visual. How do I get slow? A deep breath, takes that adrenaline rush and it brings it down, right? Puts me into a state of getting visual, slowing things down. So a big thing for me, if you watch any big leaguer on the mound or in the box, watch them breathe. Every pitch, watch Mike Trout, the greatest player on earth. Watch his at-bat. Just break it down pitch by pitch. He steps out. He gets a deep breath. He gets back in the box. What's he doing? He's slowing down his vision. Now what's he doing? Okay. Yes, as a hitter, you're thinking, yes, 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 I'm swinging. You're never thinking, oh, let me see the ball and then swing. No, no, no. You don't have time for that, right? You have to be in the box. Yes, 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 I'm swinging. But a calm aggression, right? I want to be calm in my body and aggressive in my mind to think, okay, I'm going to hunt the fastball and I'm going to look for the pitch out over the plate where I can get my arms extended and I'm going to hammer something. I had a great conversation with Bellinger at the All-Star game when he was really on fire. And I said, hey, what's been a big thing for you this year? And he was talking more about approach than anything. He was saying, he got on top of the plate more. He started taking that fastball in off the plate, which he swung at a lot last year. And when you start taking that pitch, that allows you to really recognize that curveball better and let that thing go down. So then all of a sudden you eliminate 2 pitches just by getting visual, right? So forget about your swing and, hey, where's my hands, where's my feet? Man, I've just really worked myself into eliminate a couple pitches. Now I start getting count leverage. I'm 1-0, I'm 2-0, I'm 2-1, right? Now that guy on the mound says, okay, I gotta throw a strike here. I gotta go to a pitch that I can command and keep it in the strike zone. Well, as a hitter, what happens to me? It's a game of confidence. My confidence goes up. Now I say, okay, I'm really going to hunt the fastball here. Not only going to hunt the fastball, I'm going to hunt location. If it's something middle of the way I want that I can drive, that's what I'm going to do, try and drive some in the gaps. You can start getting a little more picky. So, for me, getting visual, seeing the ball early out of the pitcher's hand, and then seeing the ball late in those last few feet, those are huge for me. And the great thing is, CJ, when we talk about this stuff, we're not talking mechanics. We're talking about the mental side of that one-on-one wrestling match of, hey, you do this, I'm going to do this. You do this, I'm going to do this. And I think that's the greatest thing about the game is that at the end of the day, when you're in the box, all you got's you. You don't have your dad. You don't have your mom. You don't have your coach. You don't have the hitting coach. You don't have your brother. You have nobody. So I always felt like I better read books or I better learn a lot about how the mind works. Because when I get into a situation where I'm struggling or my confidence isn't that high, how do I find a way to get that turnaround time better where I can say, okay, I'm ready to go mentally. I have my thoughts together. I'm visually ready. I got my deep breath. I'm going to hunt the fastball and see what happens. I mean, awesome, I could talk all day, bro. There's
I know
so much good stuff there, but that's the truth.
It's so good, man. And you said a couple things there, right? That you said you got a 17 and 18-year-old at home, right? They're missing out on a high school season this year. But I mean, they're reading books about the mental side of the game, right? About mental toughness, right? There are definitely things. I think that you started that thing just the right way, right? It is something that you have to work on. You got to build into that. You got to have a game plan. You've got to find a way that that you tackle that side of the game, right?
Yeah.
And again, right, like and listen, we're in the business of technology, right? And like that's what we do. But there's all these big parts of this that are just about the how you learn to hit and your swing path and the mechanics of hitting are huge, and you need those things to be there for you and just work, right? They just have to be able to, has to happen for you, like subconsciously as you're in the box. But the mental side's huge, right? And so, that's always been something that stuck for me. I think you got awesome, kind of history and plan there. And I think you've said before, like it's one of the big reasons that you feel like you had the career you had for as long as you had. You could. You beat people mentally, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's huge. So it's certainly something that feels like, it is a thing that can be focused on while we're all in this kind of strange state. And if this goes on through the summer, like, making it a point of let's get better on the mental side of the game this summer could be a really, good opportunity for people.
I gotta say one more thing, CJ. I have so much passion about this because this is the separator that people don't work on. Because, I think it's so important. Like your company, Diamond Kinetics. Listen, the technology that you guys bring. I mean, that is such a separator now. Get into the batting cage. You have to learn how your swing works. And that's part of the mental side of the game. Because if I know I've been in the cage working, when I get in the box, what am I building? Confidence, right? I'm going one-on-one against Randy Johnson. I better feel pretty good about myself that I put the time in the cages, and now I got to go one-on-one with him, right? But I think the mental side of the game is just it's not worked on enough, and it needs to be. You have to learn how to slow yourself down. You have to learn how to talk to yourself right when the game gets negative. When you do everything right and you line out a couple times and you're over 4, you punch out with a big situation. You got to be able to come back the next day and get ready to go. It's that relentless optimism. Like, you have to find a way in your brain to talk to yourself and just find that you are a giant. You are confident, putting your shoulders back, how your body language works. I mean, all those things are so important. But like you said, CJ, and I said it before, like, this has to be worked on. Like, I remember my dad bought me the Mental Game of Baseball book when I was 16 years old. I remember at Upper St. Clair High School, I'm reading that book during my free periods. So I hated reading back then. I was like, oh man, I can't stay reading. But this book just like engulfed me because I loved baseball, and I started loving, wow, that's how these big leaguers think. That's how they look at the game. That's how they really break down on the bat. And I'll tell you what, had I not read that book, I read that book from when I was 16 to when I was 34. I literally read it every day. A part of it, I read it front to back a lot, but I read a part of it every day that would help me in the game or before, where I could get my mind right and get my routine right. Because guess what? Process, not results. Get so good at your process, the results are a byproduct of a great process. And I think if kids can understand that, man, they would take their game to another level.
It's awesome, man. It's really good stuff. It's huge, super important. So that's great. For those that are just joining or just joined recently, CJ Handrum, the co-founder and CEO of Diamond Kinetics. We're talking all things baseball with our good friend Sean Casey. If you've got some questions, we'll certainly try to answer. I saw a couple of them pop in there through the question box there. A couple more here for you, Case, if you've got some time, man.
Yeah. I got nothing but time.
Nothing but oh man. You sit in this, and again, something you and I have talked about in the past. You've got this cool opportunity now where, right, you played for a long time in the big leagues, but now your role, with the MLB network gives you the ability to stay around the game, right? And not just stay around it, but stay involved in it, influence it, talk about it. And you kind of get a catbird seat, right? To seeing, what's making this generation of baseball and this group of players kind of tick and go, right? And so maybe talk a little bit about, like, what are you seeing, how did today's players, some of the great players in the game, like how do they approach hitting? Certainly technology is all around the big league game at this point. So, what are your thoughts around that? I mean, I know even in knowing you for several years, right? We've talked a lot almost year over year, right? And you guys are talking more about technology and kind of seeing how some of the data and information is starting to change and influence how we're learning, about the swing, how we're teaching it, how it's influencing the game. So, what are some of your thoughts? I mean, what have you seen, and get us in the head of some of the great hitters and players today, and how they're approaching the game, approaching hitting.
Well, listen, I go right to what you guys are doing at Diamond Kinetics. I mean, the Dodgers minor league system, the Cubs, all these minor league teams are now requiring to have that sensor, that Diamond Kinetics sensor in your bat, so they can get the data. All like understand, hey, what's my launch angle? Am I coming in steep to the ball? Is my bat path right? How can I work on that? I think things have changed a lot, since I played. I retired in 2000 after the 2008 season, which wasn't that long ago, but you know how quick technology's happening. I mean, it's amazing. So I think the guys are looking more at the data that you guys offer more than ever. Even if you look at a guy like Daniel Murphy, I think he took some of the stats a few years ago and started saying, okay, if I get a little bit more lift on the ball, if I start leveraging counts, maybe 2-0, I take a shot on my bat angles a little different, coming in, maybe trying to hit the top part of the ball, but maybe get under it a little bit, getting that good backspin, maybe take a shot at getting it out front a little bit more. I think guys are looking more at their videos more than ever. I think the angles that they have are so different than when I played. You know, they have so much more. So yeah, I think the guy, and you know, even for pitchers, you know, spin rate. What's my spin rate? You know, what's the percentage of should I throw more? You know, you're seeing nowadays with pitchers more curveballs, more sliders, more off-speed pitches than ever. You know, and you know, for good reason, because it's showing that stuff works. So, you know, even when you look at shifts, and you know, I even asked a buddy of mine, Mark Budzinski, who's the first base coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. I say, you know, he puts together some of that shift stuff, and I said, come on, bud, is this stuff legit? And he said, you know what, Case, it really is. Like, it really does work, and the numbers, you got to go by the numbers and what they say. So I think in this day and age of baseball, 2020, these players, the front offices, the coaching staffs, these guys are going more on numbers. But I do think, talking to players still, I remember having a conversation with Anthony Rizzo, talking about his approach, and he still said, you know what, man, I can't take all those numbers with me into the batter's box. I have to have a game plan of what I see that pitcher, but I still got to get up there, see the ball, and hit it. And that sometimes is tough enough. So I think as much as there's more technology and as much there's more information, I think those players know how hard it is to hit a baseball and throw a baseball, that when you get in the box, you still simple is better.
Yeah, that's great, man. And I think, you know, I think we're seeing, you know, we kind of see the same thing, right? You find this, you got to strike a balance. It's been neat for us to watch, you know, as our technology kind of gets adopted, you know, through minor leagues and it happens over a stretch of years. You get some of these guys who now, you know, as they make their way to the big leagues, like it kind of becomes normal and native for them, right? They're looking for it, but it is, right, finding the right balance on how you use the information. That's a big thing that we focused on even as we kind of built out our swing fingerprint concept, right? It's like, it's really at that point about knowing like your strengths and weaknesses in the way, you know, you swing across the zone, you know, your bat path, you know, on pitches low and away versus up and in, and putting the data supports that, but it's not, you know, metrics all the time as much as it's, hey, how do we use the metrics to be able to kind of give you really good usable feedback about you as a hitter, and then things you can specifically focus on. So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's a really cool time. And, you know, again, I think you got just this awesome view of it because you're watching your kids come up in it playing, you know, high school baseball. You're around it, you know, on a daily basis in your role at the MLB Network. And then obviously, you know, you have a very unique perspective that not too many get, you know, as a big leaguer with the career that you had. So, you know, we've got a few questions in here. So if you got a little bit of time, I'll ask a few of the questions that popped up, and then,
Go ahead.
you know, I'll wrap us up with a couple things here. So we had somebody ask, what is your favorite and most memorable baseball memory playing, you know, with your kids, right? So like, what's the best Casey family baseball story?
Casey family baseball story. Wow. Boy, I got a lot of them, man. How much time you got? You know, I think going back, I remember in Cooperstown, my son Andrew was facing this kid that threw absolute gas, and I was, tell you the truth, I was more scared for him than anything. I was almost like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen somebody throw this hard ever. And you know, at that age of 12, and I remember thinking I was kind of scared for him, and he ended up hitting a rocket off the center field wall, and I remember thinking, I was just so proud of him that he stayed in the box and he wasn't scared, because I think if I was 12 and I faced a kid that threw that hard, I'd be like, time,
see ya.
Get me out of here, please. You know, as ASAP. You know what I mean? So that was that was a cool memory we had. You know, also too, like I remember my son Jake, you know, down in Aberdeen when we were 12. You know, just playing there at those parks, Wrigley and Fenway and stuff. And I think he homered in one of the games. And I don't know, man. There's so many moments of that I'm so proud of, like watching the kids play. It's just funny. I remember my son Andrew last year in the Whitfield playoffs hit a home run, and I don't know. I think I might even cry just because you're just so proud, man. You see these kids grow up, and you're such a big part of their life, and then all of a sudden you see them do things on the field, and it's just really cool. And it's just you know, it warms your heart, man. It's really cool.
It's that parenting thing where you don't realize it, and then you're like, man, it's better watching them do it than even doing it on your own.
So much
that's
better.
Cool.
So much better.
All right, somebody's taking us back to the Richmond Spiders days. So what's the best Richmond Spiders baseball memory and moment for you?
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. One of the coolest personal memories was we were playing Old Dominion in a doubleheader. And I remember that at that time, a lot of scouts had come out. I was having a good year. There was a guy named Bobby St. Pierre, was a pitcher. There was a couple pitchers for Old Dominion, a couple good players. So a lot of scouts came out. And I remember in my first 4 at bats, I hit a home run to left center, right center, dead center, and then right center. And I just remember that game like, wow, now that was a good game. You know what I mean? It was like perfect timing because a lot of the scouts came out and it was really cool. But what the coolest moment, I think, as being with those guys, and I have so many great relationships with those guys this day when I was with Richmond, was in '95. You had to. We were right on the bubble to make the regionals. We were like 17th in the country, but we had to get an at-large bid because I think we lost to Old Dominion in the finals of the CAA tournament, and we were all over at the Commons in Richmond. It's right on the lake there. And I remember sitting there and we were watching the bids show on ESPN, and they were like, number 5 Jacksonville State, I think will take on the number 4 seed, the University of Richmond. And I remember just like, what a moment. We hadn't been to regionals in years, and it was my junior year. I got drafted a little bit later, so I knew that would probably be my last season with those guys. We all like hugged. We were going crazy. We ended up jumping in the lake, which I don't know if that was a good thing or not. I don't know how, if it was dirty or what it was, but we ended up going out to the gazebo and jumping in the lake. And I just remember that moment with those guys, how much hard work we put into the season. And, it was just so great. And then we went to the regionals at Clemson. We won the first round, lost the next 2 games. But I have so many great memories of those
awesome.
of those years at Richmond. I'm so grateful for that time.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. All right, so winding down to the finish line here. You hit against and you played against like some of the. You talk about Hall of Famers like Maddox and Smoltz and Randy Johnson and Pedro. So you've hit against the best of the best, right? Who's your nemesis, man? Who had your number? Like, what was because again, man, you played against some of the best ever pitch. So who had your number?
There was those pitchers, obviously, that you named were not fun to face. Randy Johnson was not. It was a scare. I felt like my son Andrew at Cooperstown, like, oh my God, this guy's throwing 100. He's 6'11". He's throwing behind me in 193-mile-an-hour slider. I was scared to death. But there was one guy that was my nemesis, and it was so funny since we came up in the minor leagues together with Cleveland, and then we both got traded. And then in the big leagues, I couldn't hit him. He was a guy named Steve Klein. And Kleiner, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. With the Cardinals, he had a sinker and a slider. He was a lefty. And Tony La Russa would bring him in to face me, whether it was 3-2 in the ninth or it was 9-0 in the ninth. Like La Russa would go get Steve Klein. I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. Like, why are you going to get Klein? It's 9-0. You know what I mean? But Kleiner would come in, and I never guessed as a hitter. I was always on the fastball and trying to work off the off speed, just trying to use my eyes and see it up or whatever. But Kleiner was just, crisscrossing the plate on me, sinkers in, sliders away. And I think I went over my first 19 against him, like in big spots. I just couldn't get a hit. And I remember he was the only guy I started to guess on it. And I would guess wrong every time. I'd be like, okay, here comes the slider, fastball in. Oh, here comes the fastball in, slider away. It was like, so I think I got my first hit off him. He got traded to the Giants, bases loaded. He came in to face me, throws me a sinker, blows my bat into 85 pieces, firewood everywhere. The ball just bloops to left, dumps in, 2-run score. I get the first base. Kleiner's like, he's like, are you serious? You're going to take that? I go, yeah, I'm going to take it. I'm over my last 22 off you, Rob. I will take it out. I'll throw it out there if they'll let me. So Steve Klein was my nemesis. Kleiner, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, I'd like to get one more at bat against you, pal.
Let's set it up, man. Let's set it up. That'd be fun. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's super, super cool. So, well, listen, man, I'm not going to hold you too long, but I'm going to finish this up here with a quick little sort of one-word rapid fire for you, man. So a few of we'll get to know a little bit of what some of Sean's favorites are, man. So I'll hit you quick here. So, cool. Favorite ballpark to hit in as a big leaguer.
Wow, favorite ballpark to hit in was old Olympic Stadium out there in Montreal. That was the, I don't know. I raked there for some reason. Then they took the Expos away. I was like, no, don't let the Expos go away. I don't know why I hit so well there, but I do. So
That's awesome.
I loved hitting there, but I also loved playing at Wrigley and Fenway. It was just cool places to play.
Yeah, you got this distinction. A lot of Pittsburghers know this. You got the distinction of hitting the last home run at Three Rivers and the first home run at PNC Park, right?
Well, Wayner hit the last home run at Three
Oh, wait,
Rivers.
right.
I got the first hit. This is pretty. If you want any Sean Casey trivia, which probably most people don't, but I might be the only human that knows this. But I hit the last home run at Milwaukee County Stadium.
Milwaukee County.
I got the first hit at Miller Park, and then 3 days later, I got the first hit in a home run at PNC Park. So, which is kind of cool because growing up in Pittsburgh, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's a feather in your cap,
That's pretty awesome. All right, who's your favorite band?
Oh man, Pearl Jam's my favorite band. Just man, I came up to Even Flow when I was playing, and I remember talking about back in the day in high school when that when the album 10 came out. I remember there was two albums I used to hit to. I used to hit the 10 Pearl Jam, and I used to hit the AC/DC Back in Black, and those two albums are still two of my favorite. But Pearl Jam's.
We got that one in common for sure. We've talked about that one a little bit. I know you're close with Eddie Vedder, and he's a big supporter of the Miracle League too.
Yes.
Pretty awesome. What's your favorite baseball technology?
My favorite baseball technology is Diamond Kinetics. For real. I know we're on here talking about it, but I believe in it. I love that you guys are kind of a local Pittsburgh company too. But I just love your technology. And listen, I'm not the only one saying it because almost every Major League Baseball team uses it. And they use it in the minor league system, and they use it for their data. So, you guys have a product, and you guys have the right people around there being around you guys, and I appreciate it too because my sons love it, and we use it, which is great.
It's awesome. All right, last one, man. Other than baseball, what's your favorite sport?
Other than baseball, it's my favorite sport. Probably football. I like watching football the best. I really enjoy watching the Steelers and NFL. It's just it's fun. I really enjoy it. So probably kind of football.
Yeah, can't beat football on a Sunday in the fall. So, all right. Well, listen, man. Really appreciate you joining us, man. So I always have a blast talking to you. I could probably do it for 2 more hours, but I know you could too. But we'll let you get back to the family and the 4 kids. And thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, CJ. Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, man. Good seeing you, brother. Even if it's only even if it's through Instagram, but I'm sure when this stuff starts happening, I'll see you at some point.
Yeah, we'll get you back down to the office soon, man.
Okay, man.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you, brother. Yep.
Yeah, be well.